Hey there, YouTubers. Alright, so another unboxing video. This is a case that I bought off Amazon. Kind of funny, I'm here in Africa and, I am buying big cases like this that will never make it home. But, I got to put my motherboards and everything in something. So we got this one, Zalman S2 ATX mid-tower. So most likely it will support ATX, micro ATX, and ITX, but we'll at least check that out with one or two motherboards here. So let's take a look at the outside here so you can get some dimensions. There they are. Of course, they're metric, which is going to do most of you no good. Weighs 3.9 kilograms, so we are at about 8.5 pounds. Made of steel, plastic, and acrylic. And there you go. It does support ATX, micro ATX, mini ATX. So, most of these mid-towers do 3. Maximum length of a graphics card, 330 millimeters. Maximum CPU color height, 156 millimeters. Maximum power supply length, 180 millimeters. You're going to have room for 7 PCI expansion slots. There is the DIMMs, or how many drives you'll have there, 2, 3.5, 2, 2.5. Fan support, that's always kind of important there, knowing that. So 320 millimeters in the front, 220 millimeters on top, 120 millimeter in the rear, and the bottom actually, wow, 220 millimeters in there. So fans included, you get one rear fan, it looks like, and then if you wanted to do a radiator, looks like you're on the smaller side with 120 millimeters. And that is the ports that are going to be on it. One headphone, one mic, 2 USB 2.0s, one USB 3.0. And so, that said, folks, let's go ahead and get it open. Alright, so this came double box, basically. Put in a huge box. I was actually hoping this was the monitor I bought myself. But we got a case instead. I think I paid about $39.99 for this, and it took over a month to get here to Africa. So let's get it out of here. All right. So by the end of this video, I will have disassembled this pretty much. I will show you what it comes with, the parts. We'll take the left hand and right hand access panel off. We will, if we can get the front off, we'll take the front off. I may do another video where I install a front fan for y'all. Of course, right now we're a little low on case fans, so it might be a while till that happens. Alright, let's start with the bottom. Let's see. I'm just trying to, look at the overall quality. So, among my many degrees, I actually have an industrial engineering degree, which corresponds a lot with manufacturing engineering, and I have done quite a bit of that in the past, mainly in the aerospace world. So you can kind of see, quality looks suspicious in a few places, but this is a cheap case. What do you expect? So it has a little grill here to keep the dust out. And you can probably get one fan in there possibly, and this may be for a very small fan. And when I say, the quality looks a little suspicious, that's not lined up very well, right? That's how it's supposed to look. Just like that one. Alright. So, if we were going to take the front off of this, things you always want to check before you do that is make sure that that front piece does not have the power button on there and all this other stuff, so that when you take it off, you don't rip those wires out. So what we're going to do, normally I would put one hand here and then use my right hand to pull this off. Since I'm filming, I'm going to try and put my elbow down and do this and just show you. There we go. So that's what the grill looks like on the inside. It is vented, and it does have, some protection against dust. So this is honestly the best design, right? You'll be able to put your 3 fans in the front. it will suck in a lot of cool air, assuming the room you have this in is not an oven. You know, here in Africa where I'm at, you can get up to 130 degree temps in the summer out in the sun. So, you know, you can imagine AC take a little while to keep up, but alright, so this is what it looks like from the front, and like I said, we'll take off every panel. Now, most likely I'll have to get in here and see about putting a fan in later. You know, depending on the case, you may end up either on the inside or the outside of this piece. So this would be impossible to screw in from the other side. So you will most likely slip your fan in underneath here and screw it in. This one will be the most difficult to install. These other two, you know, not as bad, easy to access. So sometimes you have to think about this stuff. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get the left-hand access panel off for y'all. And these are on here, but you know, usually you can get these off with your hands. This one's on a little too tight for me, so I'm going to get a Phillips out. Ideally, I believe number 1 or number 2 on this. And they do have like a, I think that's a rubber, like a rubber grommet to protect the glass. I say glass. This is acrylic, okay? So plastic. Hence why I bought this, right? A lot of stuff gets damaged on its way here to Africa. And so acrylic is not likely to shatter, right? Alright, so we'll take that off. There you can see S2 there. Now, I'm going to tell you stuff I like about this and what I don't. I definitely love this, right? I love to be able to see what my power supply is, which one I put in here, whether it be a 400 watt or a 1050 watt, okay? So that's always a nice feature. Sometimes, you know, when they're not in there, you're like, what did I put in there? And if you're like me, I've got probably close to 30 cases now. Who knows how many power supplies and how many motherboards, but you can definitely forget what you have, right? Alright, so we're going to take the back panel off. Well, excuse me. That would be the right-hand panel, and we will really get an idea how this thing looks, how it's going to be to build. So all your hardware, standoff screws, and looks like some replacement components, some zip ties, and there's a hole in the bag, so hopefully all this stuff's not going to fall over the place. Alright, let's take the other side off. So to do that, we've got to take these fasteners out. Instruction manual, we'll take a look at that. Here is the 7, while I'm taking the screw out, here's the 7 PCI slots. And you know, these cheaper cases, you get what you get. These aren't going to be replaceable. Cyclic stress, after you pop this, bend it back and forth, and it will come out, okay? Now, you know, occasionally I try and give you guys tips while I do this stuff. So what we're going to see when we take this off, if I can take it off with one hand, damn, things on there, folks, is how deep this cavity is going to be, okay? And it could be deeper. So me personally, I would love to see this thing be about a ½ inch wider. But overall not bad. You know, there is enough depth to this, okay, that cabling should go in here relatively easy, especially the one that goes with your 24-pin ATX power connector, right? That's the thickest one that's going to fit around this area. Now, things I could note that I don't like, I like to see a lot more of these, okay? I'm really only seeing 3. then one there, so 4. Not an abundance of those. That would be nice. Obviously, you've got this cutout here to access your CPU cooler. So that is, definitely a nice feature. Overall, it's pretty light, and it actually feels pretty solid. All right. Yeah, that's not bad. They put, bends in different. So when you put a sheet metal bend in like that, that's going to help make it rigid. It's going to stop it from bending. And so that's, a good thing. Way to get away with using the thinner material, because this is definitely thin material. All right, down here, here's our drives. I hate these little plastic gizmos. Better cases, have the metal ones. But that snaps in there. So 2 3.5 inch drives that go there. Somewhere up here, you're going to put in your 2.5 inch drives. And of course, there's some slotting in here for running your cable. So we'll flip this over. It'll give you a better idea. And I may do a build with this for y'all, or at least a partial build. I don't have the best gear here in Africa at the moment. All of it's back home. And so it makes it really difficult to do a good computer build for you guys. Alright, so standard connectors, USB 3.0. One of these is HD audio. The other is going to be USB 3.0. Yeah, this guy's HD audio. This is your USB. And then if we can get these undone. So these are your standard case connectors. Pretty much the ones you see on all these, which is, unfortunately it's probably out of focus, but HDD LED, you got your power switch in here, power LED, reset switch, alright, and if I didn't say it, power switch. So standard stuff. Of course you will route these, around the back of this thing. So let's put a motherboard in here, because you know what, until you guys see it, there's things you might not really notice that you may or may not like. Okay, so let me try and find one. And right off the bat, before I cover it up, you can see the original standoffs that are in here are for mini ITX. Okay. Alright folks, so first we're putting in a micro ATX motherboard. So you will have to put standoffs in here. And with this one, does it actually line up? Of course you shouldn't yank around your computer with the CPU cooler like I'm doing. Luckily, I can afford to replace this stuff. You may not be able to, okay? So don't follow what I do sometimes. But you will need to put standoffs in that row. It looks like at least 2 of those. This may have a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Does not appear to be one in this area, okay? So that's going to be a negative when you're pressing stuff in. But overall, it looks like a couple screws here, a couple screws there line up. So this motherboard at least fits in here pretty good. Now, what do I care about, okay, when I'm building with this? Well, what I like to see up top here is a gap for the, in this case, your 1x8 CPU power connector, and there it is, right? So I'll be able to run that connector from the power supply up in there, okay? Now let's look for where we'd run our 24 pin. There really isn't, this isn't that deep of a case, and unfortunately they don't have a nice slot right here for it. Potentially you could come in there, maybe. You might come in there. Doesn't look like this one would support you coming up from underneath the motherboard, so that is not going to work. Might not, I mean it works, but it doesn't look as pretty as it could be, right? So down here, these connectors, a lot of times you can run them underneath the motherboard, or in this case you have all these holes, so leave that up to you. Like I said, this is micro ATX, and so this motherboard does work relatively decent in here. Could it be better? Yes. Alright, now I threw a ATX motherboard in here. So you know, same deal up here. You'll be able to access where the CPU power connector goes. 24 pin, probably going to have to come through this slot or that one, same as the other. Now down here, for these connectors, you're going to have to come through these holes or up underneath the motherboard. And you know, the graphics card, where's it going to come from? Probably over there, okay? Or even there, depending on if you have one or two graphics cards. A little tighter, obviously, for a ATX motherboard, but you know, this looks like a decent build for it, right? You can see I don't have it bolted in. It looks like there's clearance, okay? Could this case be wider? Yes, it would, you know, be a little better if it was just a little wider, but I believe most of your CPU towers will fit in here. Maybe not the 140 millimeter Noctua, but that's another story. So there you go, folks. Hopefully you got something out of this. I like to think I covered just about everything. The only thing I did not cover, and this is going to be out of order, but we didn't talk about the buttons on top and actually at the top, everything on the top. So let's go look at that now. All right, so you can take this off. You've got your dust cover, magnetic, right? Covers up the vents. So that's always a nice feature. And looks like it lines up pretty good. Now, over here, this has a good old power button here. Headphones, microphone, USB 2.0, 2.0, 3.0, okay? Then we have, this should be a reset switch. One of these is the hard drive, and the other is going to be the power LED. That is the model. You read it like that, S2. And so, I think, folks, we have covered every ounce of this thing. Now, without putting a power supply in here, you know, sometimes the power supply can be a bear. That gap, like they make it the perfect height to barely fit it in. But I don't know if this one's like that. Potentially it is. And this is one of those areas where you actually wish they would reinforce the metal. You know, when you have a really heavy power supply in here, sometimes this stuff can get a little bent up. But hey, thanks for checking out the video. Hope you got something out of it. Once again, this was the Zalman S2.